Have you ever had a conversation that was interrupted? Hank boarded the bus to work each day and started a conversation with his friend, then stopped speaking as the bus arrived at his building. 8 hours later, he boarded the bus to return home, sat down next to his friend, and picked up the conversation exactly where he had left off. The intervening time did not seem to have affected him one bit. When God spoke to Israel through the last Old Testament prophet Malachi, he said that he would send Elijah to turn the heart of the fathers to their children and the heart of the children to the fathers. This prophecy ends abruptly. It was followed by a resounding divine silence for a period of 400 years. Then God appears to a priest in the temple and picks up the conversation that was interrupted, saying to him, "Fear not, Zacharias, for thy prayer is heard, and thy wife Elizabeth shall bear thee a son, and he shall go before him in the spirit and power of Elijah, to turn the hearts of the fathers to the children, and the disobedient to the wisdom of the just, to make ready a people prepared for the Lord." Zacharias was an old man and had about given up hope of having a son. His wife was also barren. He obediently named the baby John, and at the dedication Zacharias was filled with the Holy Spirit and prophesied, "Thou, child, shalt be called the prophet of the highest, for thou shalt go before the face of the Lord to prepare his ways, to give knowledge of salvation unto his people by the remission of their sins through the tender mercy of our God." Within a year of John's birth, Herod the Great instituted a manhunt for the baby Jesus, whom the Magi came to seek as King of the Jews. Now, word of the strange events surrounding the birth of John 6 months prior to this had circulated, and Herod demanded that Zacharias hand over baby John. Zacharias had foreseen this possibility and hid the child. The soldiers returned and reported this to the king and were ordered to murder Zacharias in cold blood right there in the temple if he didn't hand over his son. Jesus, in a scorching denunciation and prophecy to the scribes and Pharisees, said, "Upon you may come all the righteous blood shed upon the earth, from the blood of righteous Abel unto the blood of Zacharias, son of Barachias, whom ye slew between the temple and the altar. Verily I say unto you, all these things shall come upon this generation." Now, within 35 years of that prophecy by Jesus, the temple was no more. Theodosius, a Byzantine traveler, wrote in his diary in the 6th century that the biblical Zacharias, the father of John the Baptist, was martyred and buried in a tomb just outside the eastern wall of the temple. Legends have surrounded this tomb for centuries. It was popularly called Absalom's tomb when I saw it in 1966. That all changed in 2001 when Josias, a Jerusalem archaeologist from the Israeli Antiquities Authority, identified an inscription on that tomb that read, "This is the tomb of Zacharias, martyr, a very pious priest, father of John the Baptist." The scribes and Pharisees who controlled the temple still wanted to get rid of John, so he remained in hiding until he was of age 30 to begin his ministry. Luke closed his first chapter writing, "And the child grew and waxed strong in spirit, and was in the deserts till the day of his showing unto Israel." John's dress and habits were strikingly suggestive of Elijah, the old prophet of national judgment, and it is not improbable that he intentionally copied his great prophetic model Elijah. Like John, you may not understand circumstances and current events, but you can rest in the same answer that Jesus sent to John. Prophecies were being fulfilled. Jesus identified Johanan ben Zacharias as the one promised, and he referenced Malachi chapter 3, saying, "Verily I say unto you, among them that are born of woman, there hath not risen a greater than John the Baptist. And if you will receive it, this is Elijah which was to come." It does not matter how many years you live. What does matter is that you seek and find the plan of God for your life and fulfill the purposes of God for your generation.